and the people, the list of people.
Mm-hmm.
So if you click on the 3 triangles activities and then click on polls, you'll find there are 2 questions.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So Emily, I'm not sure if you'll see the poll only or if we get to see it.
I did launch it.
Yep, I can see it.
Okay. I see, let's see, we've got 50-50 on the have you downloaded it.
Okay.
And most people have never used it. Some people have used it here and there, and one person has used it frequently.
Okay, so who's used it frequently?
That might be me.
Okay.
Ooh, I could show everyone the results. That's fun.
Woohoo.
This is PD for me, Kelly.
All right. Hi, David. Welcome.
Hi. I had the time messed up. I thought it was 7. Oops.
That's okay. Glad you made it.
Yeah, I'm going to be probably putting down a piece of chicken while I'm participating.
Okay. All right. Should we wait another minute or so, or should I get started? What do you think?
I could wait. I don't know. I get more people.
Wait till 5 after.
Okay. Because we did have a whole bunch more people who had registered for the event. So anybody have a question right off the bat? Anybody who I can add to my list of questions and make sure I cover it?
I have a question.
Sure.
When I identify a plant with iNat, is there some way for it to tell me if it's a native plant or a beneficial plant, or do I have to look that up other ways?
It does not tell you if it's beneficial, but it will definitely tell you if it's native or invasive. A little pink, and we'll see a picture of it during the slideshow. You'll see it. It'll say I think not native, so you'll know. I'm not sure if you have to have a research grade. It might need to also be ID'd to species before you see that. But it will definitely. And then when there's a view, you can look at a grid and it'll show native or not native.
Excellent.
Yep. Everybody's so quiet.
My students just started using it to document the plants on our land lab, our newly acquired land lab. So we're working compartment by compartment, and they're pretty excited about that.
So where is the land lab?
It's right in between the soccer field and Pat Wall Field, so we can walk to it. And it falls under the "you're not off campus," so I can take kids there right now.
Nice.
Speaking of which, one of them just joined. Welcome,
Nice.
Meredith.
Happy Earth Day, everybody.
Yes.
Yes.
Good point. Yes.
My daughter sent me a picture. I don't know where she got it. I actually marched in DC on Earth Day about 4 years ago. I forgot about it. And somebody took a picture, got me, and she sent it to me today.
Nice. All right. Well, it's 6:05, so I'll get started. And Emily, you'll keep an eye on anybody else coming in. I know somebody dialed in on the phone, so welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us this evening. I know 6 o'clock interferes maybe a little bit with some dinners. My name is Kelly Furstenberg. I am a pure amateur. I'm an amateur naturalist. I am an iNaturalist enthusiast, though. I have logged more than 7,000 observations, and I'm also a volunteer with the Meriden Natural Resources Inventory Team. And I will definitely do my best to answer your questions. And I want this to be a conversation, so feel free to turn on your camera and ask questions. there is a raise hand button at the bottom, the white bar at the bottom of your screen. You can click that if I can't see you, and then I'll know that you have a question. So feel free to just ask as I go along. I really want this to be interactive, informative, that I'm answering the questions that you have so you don't forget them. So Emily, where are we at our poll? Still about half and half who have downloaded the app?
Can I start?
Yes. Yeah. 2/3.
Okay. And so let me ask a question, and that'll require a little feedback, is what brings you to this training session? Anybody could jump right in.
To learn how to use iNat.
Okay. Is there, so I know we're part of the NRI team. Anybody not part of the NRI team? Anybody interested in just using it for personal observation, documentation, just for fun? Anybody? You could click the raise hand button if that's where you're at. Okay. Awesome. Great. I am going to start. Let me hide this screen. All right. So not sure if you've explored iNaturalist at all and are wondering, like, what exactly is iNat? And in the organization's terms, it's an online social network of people sharing biodiversity information and to help each other learn about nature. And the primary goal of iNat is actually to connect people with nature. And that's why I hope that most of you are here. Number two, it is also to generate data, and that data that is scientifically valuable. And we do that through, I say we, the iNat community does that by helping each other identify the organisms that we post. I am not an expert in any area. I'm better at plants. You'll find if you post that the bird people are really awesome and quick. Some things are really hard to identify down to species just through photos. So I find, and I know that if I'm taking pictures of certain organisms, that I probably won't get an exact identification for it. So I got started with iNat because I went back to school to be a teacher a few years ago, and my science teacher, my science professor, wanted us all to sign up for iNat, and we were going to learn about ways to use iNat with teaching. Whoops. But that never happened. And so the good thing is I got started with iNat, and I got totally addicted as I started documenting everything that I was seeing. And I already had been doing some of that in the past. I love to take photos, and then I started uploading them, and I started learning about the things that I was photographing. And when you have an iNat account, and it's a little faint on my screen, but you can look at your observations through a calendar. And this is my first full year of iNat observing, 2015. And the darker the dot is the more photos that you took on a day. So you can see that I take a lot of pictures and I upload a lot. And over here is 2020. And even sometimes in the winter, if I find something in my house, a spider or a random, like, I don't know, stink bug or something, I sometimes will take a picture and post that. So to get started with iNat, for me, it was easier to just create an account on the computer. You'll use that same login information when or if you download the app to your phone or tablet. It is available for Android devices as well as Apple devices. It works pretty much the same, although I have heard that people with iPhones find it a little bit easier to use. And so once you've created that account, and you don't even have to wait until you create your account, just start taking pictures and then start uploading things. So there are really three ways that you can make an observation in iNat. You can make it directly through your cell phone. such as you open up the app, take the picture through your cell phone, through the app, upload it. I find that very tedious. I tend to take pictures with my phone or my camera, and sometimes I upload them on my phone, but most often I upload them on the computer because I can upload a whole bunch of photos. I can upload a whole bunch of locations. So when I was photographing for the Meriden Bio Blitz last weekend, and I had my camera, which does not capture your location data, or at least mine is not set up to do that. I could just, like all my photos at Hanover Pond, I just select all, set the location that way. So this was difficult to know how to start to explain that. So I think some of that will make more sense after you hear more of what I say. So making observations is really just taking pictures. And I'll talk more in a moment about how to take pictures and what to take pictures of. But when you make an observation in iNat through the website or your phone or tablet, it wants to know who you are. It wants to know where you saw it. It wants to know what you saw, when you saw it, and it wants proof. So if you hear something, record it if you can, because how do we know what you heard or what you saw or what you observed if we don't have any data to back up that observation? I tend to take photos. So if I can't photograph it, I don't record it. It doesn't count. So I know on the BioBlitz last Saturday, I did see some things that I did not get photos of, like a great blue heron. So even though I know I saw a great blue heron, I don't have the proof to back up that sighting. So what you saw, you might not know exactly what you saw. iNat does come up with suggestions. It's not always right. And sometimes it will suggest the genus of what you saw. And sometimes it'll say, well, I'm not really sure what you saw. And you need to use your judgment of saying, okay, I know I saw an insect. So you might just put insects in there. And that will be very valuable in helping other people discover your observations to help you identify them. And one of the key things is to take lots of photos. I tend to start back a little bit. I try to get as close as possible. Pictures are not always as sharp as I would like them to be, but just really do your best. And I want to show you, this is just a quick video. This is from iNat. Oh, we don't need that. Let's see. And it talks about taking photos. It is very important to get closer. So those have some great tips. Sometimes it is not possible to get different angles. A bird flies in, an insect flies in, we get what we can, and then it disappears. But sometimes we can take the time to photograph something at different angles to get closer. I usually try, like I said, I try for the distance shot. Okay, I got it. And then I get as close and close and close as I can to try to get a good shot in as much detail as possible. I sometimes have browsed through observations in iNat, and I think there is no possible way anybody could identify, such as the tree. We need to see leaves. We need to see bark. We need to see sometimes flowers, sometimes underside of flowers. Are there hairs on the stems? There's so many details that go into identifying flowers. And sometimes there are more possible identities than we might have imagined. For example, the common dandelion. I used to think, oh, that's a common dandelion, but I did not realize that there is a red-seeded dandelion that I don't know how to identify it strictly from the flower. So it's important to, if you're identifying something, to try to be sure that you're getting the right identification. If I'm not sure, I'll put in the comments, maybe, I think, just so that people know that I'm not 100% sure of what I am looking at. And sometimes you might see, take a photo of something that has that. Is it the photo? Is it the, I'm sorry, is it the flower? Is it the insect? And on this one, I knew that that was Queen Anne's lace, so I made sure that I put the identification on it. But I also wanted the insect. In this one, I did come up with the identification of the common thread-waisted wasp, but sometimes I'm not sure what the insect is, and I will just put in insects so that people know I'm not interested in the flower or the tree or plant, whatever it's on. I'm interested in the insect, or vice versa. And sometimes you might duplicate an observation. There's a button that allows you to duplicate, so you don't have to re-upload the photos a second time or even a third time, depending on how many organisms that you have in your photo. So different things that you can identify. So these are all things that I have seen. A lot of them are in Meriden. Muskrat, walking on the water. This was at Bishop's Pond or Foster's Pond. I'm not sure which side. I think Bishop's side. Red-tailed hawk and mosses. Mosses are really hard. I'm terrible at identifying mosses. And I'm always grateful when people are more knowledgeable. So I take a distance photo. I try to get up really close. I think some mosses you need a microscope for. I don't know if anybody is familiar with mosses, but to me, I take lots of moss photos because I'm not sure if they're really different. They sometimes look alike to me, and I'm not sure what I'm looking at. So this is a spider that I found on the side of my house. And I'm going to show you, let's see. So this is the actual observation. And you can see I identified it where I live. It was huge. So I took a ruler and I held the ruler up next to the spider. And I think I took a guess that it was a dark fishing spider. And you can see somebody else agreed with me on that. So this is how observations become what we call research grade. That means they're more scientifically valid. If an organism is not wild, it needs to be marked as a casual observation. So down at the bottom, like if you took a picture of a zoo animal or a garden flower, or somebody did and I saw it, I would probably check off that it is not wild, because for data collection, scientists, they want the wild things. And you can also see who's really good at identifying the species that you have, if it's added to a project. Yeah, so it tells you the date observed, and you can see all my observations, and I like making those observations. And if this was a plant, so Dave, you'll find an upcoming observation where it does say that it is native. So let me jump back to the presentation. Anybody have any questions so far? Are you totally confused? Is it making sense? Okay, no questions.
All
I have
good.
a question.
Oh, sure, go ahead.
How far back in time can you go?
As far back as you want.
And we can observe or document spontaneously occurring and planted things, or like is there
I
something?
do. I mean, so like I have 2 oak trees in my backyard. I did not plant them. The squirrels did. To me, those are wild. But I also have native trees that I definitely planted, like my red bud. I would not I would not submit my red bud, but I certainly am observing my red bud for insects or anything else that might be on the red bud. So if you see something that, so sometimes garden plants escape, burning bush is a great example, Japanese barberry. I definitely document those when I'm at different locations so that we can track the escape populations. Is that what you meant?
Like I have a garden
Mhm.
and I try to plant natives in it. So
Yep.
if I do, they're not interested in what I planted that's natural or native to the environment. They're just
Right.
looking for things that are there spontaneously or
Yes.
there through nature, an
Yes.
act of nature. Okay.
Yes. So the good thing though about your native plantings is that it will attract lots of insects
I'm
and
noticing
birds.
that.
So I'll show you some numbers later, and I think you'll be amazed. And I find that the more that I've planted native in my own yard, the more organisms it attracts, and the more excited I get to plant more natives because it's just crazy. My little tiny yard it's awesome. So this was, I think this is a leech. I never got anybody to confirm that, but somehow we found this. It's on my friend's fingertip. And this was at one of the ponds here in Meriden. Last summer, I set up some lights to observe moths because I know they're out there. I just had no idea how many. I have 2 oak trees. Oak trees are larval hosts of more than 500 species of butterflies and moths. So I wanted to know what is visiting my yard that I'm missing. And every night, I didn't set up my lights every night, and I don't have the best lighting set up, but it was amazing the different moths that I saw. Like every night I would go out, there would be some of the same, but then some really unusual moths. It was so much fun. I can't wait to set up the lights again this year. I'm not even going to try to say the name of this, but it was kind of pretty, and still trying to figure out how to take better moth pictures. So, so Dave, you had asked about, does it show if something is native or not? And this little pink exclamation point right here shows that it is not native. It was introduced, and if you click on it, it'll show that it'll say something introduced into this area. Sometimes you'll observe something that is unusual, and it'll say vulnerable, critically endangered. If some of those species are things that you've observed, it will automatically hide your observation location to try to protect the organism that you observed. So Japanese barberry, people say, oh, it doesn't escape. It does. So different types of fungi. These are a little bit tricky sometimes. This one was a pretty clear, I think, observation. But when you observe things like this, I like to take a bunch of pictures, get the underside of them, whether they're a shelf fungus, like get down low, take different angles so that people can see where they are growing. Are they growing on wood? Are they growing on dead wood? Those are important factors from what I understand. I'm not an expert at all, but in identifying them. And if anybody knows more than I do, like Emily, feel free to jump in anytime and and help. Like I said, I am not an expert in any of these areas, but I'm learning. I need classes.
That's a jack-o'-lantern, I think, isn't it?
Is that, I don't know the common name. It came up as a red chanterelle.
Really?
It's a teeny tiny little.
Oh yeah, there it is. Red chanterelle. Oh, okay.
But it might not be. It could be that somebody just agreed with what I thought it is, and I like that there are curators who go through and who try to correct any observations that are any organisms that are incorrectly identified. So I'm very grateful to them. Let's see. This was kind of a fun observation. This was taken in Meriden. I don't know if any of you are from Meriden. I know some of you are. And this was at Beaver Pond a few years ago. And I found something died near the railroad track. It's a ridge carrion beetle. And you can see the hair of whatever creature had died. And this was a little bit farther out, showing the bones and the hair. I'm not sure what it was. I have no idea, but it had these beetles on it. And so that was kind of a neat observation. And you can click on the pictures that you're looking at. Depending on the quality, sometimes you can click again and get a little bit closer up observation. So that was kind of a neat, unexpected observation. So let me go back. Lichens, I think sometimes people forget about them. And I know in the garden groups I'm in, they say, what is this? What is this green stuff? Is it killing my tree? And so these are kind of fun to observe on the rocks and on trees. Ants. I mean, you know, think when you're thinking about what can I observe, anything that's alive, you can observe. These are citronella ants that somebody helped me identify. And I was cleaning out my garden last year, the year before, and I found this little nest of ants, and harmless. They weren't bothering anything. So a gray tree frog. Last couple of years, I've started seeing them come into my yard. This was on my house. I don't know why, but there he is. I thought he was cute. So when you get your observations and you upload them and you get your locations in there, you can click on a link that says My Observations, and it'll show you where you've been basically and observing. Many years ago, I hiked the Appalachian Trail. I haven't finished. And so Pamela, you were asking, can you upload older observations? So I hiked the trail in 1998, and I've gone through and I was adding photos. Now I had an SLR with one lens with slide film, and whatever I got was what I got. So I, was not photographing thinking, oh, I'm going to document all the life that I saw. I would still be on the trail probably. But you can kind of see my route. I have a little gap. I have to go back at some point and add some of my other, the other things that I saw along the trail. But you can see I've been to Minnesota and Wisconsin and Illinois and out in Colorado, Florida, South Carolina. So it's, I don't know, it's just kind of a fun record of where I've been and what I've observed over time. You can look at your own observations through the map view, which is what this is. You can see it on a grid view, and you can just see a list with a little picture and a little list of what it is that you saw. And you can also search your observations. So if you're saying, well, how many different plants have I seen? You can search that and find your own statistics. It keeps a life list for you. All right. So thank you for coming, whoever that was, Stephanie. In iNat, you also have a dashboard. If you click on your content, it shows you your observations and if anybody has made any comments or observations or identifications of your observations. So this was one that came up. I went to a BioBlitz a couple of years ago in Massachusetts and observed this peach root weevil, and somebody else decided after a couple of years to add an observation to it or an identification. So that was kind of cool. So my big question is, what will you discover in your yard? I've discovered in my own backyard amazing creatures. I've seen 2 times in the 21 or so years that I've lived at my house, cuckoo wasps. I haven't had a good enough picture to ID it to species level, but I was so amazed to find that we had this crazy looking exotic insect here in Meriden. let alone in Connecticut. Usually when I see these brightly colored insects, they're, from some exotic place. And here we have the cuckoo wasp. Now, cuckoo wasp is also a parasitic wasp. So I'm not sure, it lays its eggs in other insects, on other insects, and then their larvae eat the other eggs or larvae. So it is parasitic, but still kind of cool. Last year, for the first time, I observed this wasp. Oops, wrong mouse. I observed this wasp. It's not all that common. It doesn't have a common name, but it is starting to become known as the stink bug hunter. Did you know that there was a wasp that hunts stink bugs? That is its prey. Yay!
Finally.
Welcome to my garden.
Welcome to my house.
Right? So I was so excited to learn about this insect. Now, this wasp is on a plant. It's mountain mint. It is in the mint family. It does spread. But it is probably hands down one of the top, either the top or top 2 or 3 pollinator plants in my whole yard. I have Joe Pye weed. I have, butterfly weed, milkweed. I have many different things, but this plant, not really spectacular, has little tiny kind of pinkish flowers that you can hardly see here. It has a green silvery leaf, which is quite attractive, and it blends well with the phlox and whatever it's planted near. But that plant is busy from like July to September. It is the most visited. The wasps love it. I love the golden digger wasps. They come in, they're a solitary wasp. They've never stung me. They're kind of twitchy. I think they're kind of fun to watch, and they just visit the flowers and do their thing and then go off. And the different types of bumblebees are on this. It is, the skippers come. Sometimes the butterflies come. It's an amazing plant. And
Kelly, what's it called?
What, David?
What's it called again?
The plant is mountain mint.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So whoops, wrong mouse. Click on this. Now, I just clicked on butterflies and moths. So these are my observations that I have made, if it loads for me, of butterflies and moths in Meriden. And almost all of these observations I have made in my backyard. I have certainly seen other and documented others outside of my yard, but I have observed 226 species of butterflies and moths in Meriden. And like I said, almost all of them were in my backyard, and I have no idea why it's not loading. I apologize. So give it a moment. So the reason my number got so high to 226 is because of the moth lights. I have certainly seen a whole variety of butterflies, skippers, and sometimes daytime flying moths. But once I set up the moth lights, then I really started to see a whole variety of moths, different variety of moths. And also it brings in caddisflies and other insects that are kind of fun. My yard has been organic for almost the entire time I've been here. And as a result, I have an amazing show of fireflies in the end of June, early July. I have a garden party in my yard at the end of June, and the fireflies are kind of center stage. I think there are hundreds of them that are flashing low, medium, and high. And we've discovered that at night when you walk around, you can see little flashes of bioluminescence in the ground. And I tried to photograph them, but I don't know that I quite captured what exactly was flashing. It could be the firefly larva. I have let the moss go crazy in my backyard. Moss is a great host for fireflies. The fireflies like to lay eggs on moist places. And so I think of my yard as this little nursery for fireflies. So I don't know why it's not coming up.
Kelly, can I ask a question while you're waiting?
Of course.
We have a tree in our yard that I think is one of the pears, the Bradford pear or the Cleveland pear.
Mm-hmm.
So most of mine, I don't log. I just look to identify, but I'll start logging. Anyway, I'm sorry, my cat is bothering me. So I don't know if you can see this, but this is what happens. I go to check more, and it comes up and it says to check your app or open your app. I open my app, and it goes back to where it was before.
Hold on, let me pin you. So it's doing what?
Okay, so I wanted more information.
Oh, yeah.
So I scroll.
Sometimes it works better on the computer.
Okay.
So if
Alrighty.
you, it definitely, the app is a little bit more limited in what it can show you, but if you want more information about whatever organism it is, if you go, there is a link, like should be at the bottom of your phone screen or tablet to take you to the website. But there are
Okay.
some things that just don't have more, that
Okay.
there's just not a lot of information. But so you can see my 226 species of moths and butterflies, over 600 observations. Peck skipper, my most popular one. These are not my photos. I wish they were. These are beautiful. But these are just some of the things that I have seen. Bristly cutworm moth, Baltimore snout, double-banded grass veneer. That was a very common one. Ailanthus webworm moth. Not a good thing. They're very pretty, but they like to, one of their host plants is the tree of heaven. And with spotted lanternfly, the tree of heaven is an alternative host plant for the spotted lanternfly. And I've asked the city a couple of times to take down the tree of heaven along one of the nearby streets, and so far no luck. But so I live on like 4/10 of an acre in Meriden, which is a city of 50 something thousand people. And yet these are what I have seen so far. And when I set up my moth lights again this year, I expect that I will be adding, and I think there are more than 1,400 species of moths that have been observed in Connecticut. So I have only seen a drop in the bucket of what I possibly could see. Some of them are beautiful. Some of them are not all that interesting. This was a really pretty one, the pink shaded fern moth. The wood leopard moth is beautiful. But some of them are just, not all that exciting, but kind of fun to see the different, all the different butterflies and moths. So any other questions? No questions. All right. If you're interested in learning more about, oh, somebody has a hand. Benjamin. Benjamin, you're muted. So there is at the bottom of your screen, there's a microphone to the left of the,
I think he might have a problem with his mic.
Oh, maybe, because I keep seeing it unmute and mute. You can also type in your question in the chat box if we can't get your mic working. And David, did you have a question also?
I did before, but I can't remember now, so that's fine.
Okay. All right, because your hand is still up. So Benjamin, I apologize. You're still muted, but if you do type your, let's see, is there a comment in the chat box? So if anybody has a question and is feeling shy, feel free to, enter your question in the chat box. These are some resources that you can investigate if you want to learn more. We have a Wild Ones chapter here in Connecticut. I'm a member of that. The president lives in the Mystic Stonington area. And Homegrown National Park is founded by Doug Tallamy. He's an entomologist from the University of Delaware. He's written a couple of books, and just recently has at least his fourth book about oak trees. And I highly recommend Nature's Best Hope. He just has wonderful, wonderful books. And let's see, that's it. Thank you for attending. So, Benjamin has a question.
Yeah.
So is iBird different from eBird? I'm not familiar with iBird, but I have used eBird a little bit. So I would say, so Benjamin's question is that he's an active user of iBird. Should I enter the same information in iNaturalist? And I would say that's pretty much up to you. How you want to keep track of the things that you see. So I know if you were in Meriden, I would say yes, definitely, because we have the big project going on for collecting data and observations. And it's nice to see all that data in one location. But really, it's what you want to get out of iNat or iBird.
Kelly, I should add that we do have an eBird account for the Meriden Natural Inventory, and it's Meriden NRI. So if somebody is doing eBird, they can share their data with us by doing a share to Meriden NRI is the name of the account.
Okay, thank you.
Also, one of those links that you showed, it is a good idea to go to Homegrown National Park. You can actually register your home as a Homegrown National Park, and that's something that you might want to do, or you might want to make changes so that you can do. And same way with Pollinator Pathway, we'd like to get Meriden enrolled in that. So if you're from Meriden and you're interested in that, please reach out to any of us. The best email might be meridinnri@gmail.com. If you're interested in Pollinator Pathway, we'd like to get that going for Meriden, where you can participate, but we could do a lot more things if we were signed up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Homegrown National Park, like I said, that's a Doug Tallamy organization. He started using that term to get people to think about their own yards as part of sort of the local ecosystem, that we all need to play a part. We can't rely only on sort of the parks or the national parks, that our yards are part of the whole picture and are really important in preserving biodiversity. And I think when I look at what I have in my yard and what I've been attracting with my little native plantings, it's amazing the impact that just a few plants can have. And Native Plant Finder is through the National Wildlife Federation, and you enter your zip code and it will tell you valuable plants. Not all native plants are created equal. Some are better hosts than others. So whereas the oak tree has more than 500, there are some trees that maybe only are host to a couple of species or just a handful.
So Kelly?
Yes.
So I guess my question would be, the software for iNat is they prompt you through it so you know what you're doing. You don't need really you don't need a primer on it before you try it. You
don't really. I don't think so. Just basically you need an account. Yeah. I find it easier to upload it through the website, like I said, because I do take, like, my bird photos are taken with my camera and I don't have location data. So if I want to add 2 or 3 or 4 pictures of a certain species, I just drag those into the observation. And I, like when I was in Hanover Pond, I do all my Hanover Pond observations, select all, and then I do the location and I'm done. Mm-hmm. And it automatically knows the date. Uh-huh. And if you observe it through or add observations through your phone or tablet, it does prompt you. It'll say, do you want to submit that without a date if you forget to put a date, or for some reason it doesn't pick up the date, or you don't put an identification, like is it an insect even or a plant? It'll double check with you before you submit it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And there are a lot of really good tutorials on iNat. It's a great organization. It's a lot of fun. This weekend, actually starting tomorrow, is a city nature challenge. So if you want to get out there, there's not one in Meriden. The closest one is Fairfield County in Connecticut and Westchester County in New York. Worcester County is having a challenge. Boston, New York City, and cities across the globe are on these certain dates. I think pretty sure it starts Saturday through, actually, no, next weekend. I apologize. It's at the end of April into May 2nd or 3rd. And people around the world will compete. Cities and regions will compete to see who can observe the most different species. Yeah, I've done it a few times, and it's a lot of fun, I think. But I like that sort of thing. So what can I say? It's a good excuse to explore a different part of a different like park. I've seen some beautiful things up when I did the Boston area a couple of times. Went to Gloucester and went and met a group that they were doing. The dive team was set up, so I helped gather plankton with a little like scoop, like the nets, and then we put them in containers, and they were helping us like identify creatures. It was a lot of fun. David, did you have another question or comment?
No, just that it would be good to publicize that challenge, because we could get a lot of good data out of it if the word got out on that.
So that's not for our region, and I did ask about it for Meriden, but nobody replied because they're already setting up for next year. Okay. I think it was too late. But if we wanted to do it, the only thing is I don't know if they would let it only be a little city like us, because it tends to be a region around, like in a zone. So it is something to consider though for next year.
Yep.
Okay. Anybody else have a question, comment? That's all I have. So thank you so much, everybody, for coming and for your time on this lovely Thursday evening.
Thanks so much, Kelly.
You are welcome.
So much. Just appreciate it.
Kelly.
Thank you. You're welcome. And let me know, email me or anything if you have questions.
Good job.
Thank you.